Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You pull back the curtains, expecting the familiar blue expanse or the soft grey of an overcast day. But something is different. Something monumental has changed. Arching across the entire sky from one horizon to the other is a shimmering, razor-thin line of impossible beauty. It glows with the reflected light of the sun, a celestial ribbon woven from ice and dust. This isn't a cloud, it's not a trick of the light. Overnight, Earth has gained a crown. It has acquired a system of rings, as grand and majestic as those of Saturn. What if this were our reality? How would this breathtaking addition reshape our sky, our existence, our history, our future? Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your own what-if idea below. To understand what our world would become, we must first look to Saturn. The gas giant's famous rings are not solid hoops. They are a colossal, sprawling disk of countless individual particles, ranging from the size of a dust mote to the size of a house. The vast majority are water ice, glittering like a trillion tiny diamonds in the sunlight. They are the remnants of a shattered moon, or perhaps primordial material from the solar system's birth. Held in a delicate gravitational balance, the disk is astonishingly wide, yet incredibly thin. In places only a few dozen meters thick. Now, let's imagine such a structure encircling our own planet. If Earth's rings were proportionally similar to Saturn's, they'd stretch from the edge of our atmosphere to nearly halfway to the moon. They would be an immense, shimmering plain of ice and rock, perfectly aligned with our equator. Because they're primarily ice, they'd be brilliantly reflective. During the day, they'd outshine the fullest moon. At night, they'd gather faint starlight, creating a permanent, ethereal aurora. If you stood on the equator, Quito, Ecuador, Kampala, Uganda, you would see them edge on, a razor-thin, brilliant line bisecting the sky. At sunrise and sunset, this line would catch fire, glowing with intense reds and golds. Travel away from the equator, and they'd appear as a majestic arch rising from one horizon, curving overhead and descending to the other. You would always know which way was south or north by the highest point of the arch, the ultimate compass. But their constant presence would also mean they block something else out, something we have always cherished. The arrival of the rings would fundamentally alter the daily cycle of light and dark, a rhythm that has governed life on Earth for billions of years. Sunrise would no longer be a singular event. It would become a multi-stage spectacle. First, the sun itself would breach the horizon, but moments later, a second dawn would occur as the sun's light strikes the vast expanse of the rings, which would ignite in a cascade of brilliance. This ring shine would be softer and more diffuse, bathing the world in a silvery glow and casting a second, fainter set of shadows from every tree, every building, every person. For much of the planet, true darkness would become a memory. The rings, illuminated even when the sun is below our horizon, would act like a colossal celestial lamp, several full moons combined. While stunning, this perpetual twilight would disrupt the nocturnal world. Owls, bats, migrating sea turtles, their behaviors thrown into chaos. Our own biology, tuned to bright days and dark nights, would struggle to adapt. In Anchorage, Alaska, summer skies would become an overwhelming dome of light, while winter would be softened by an ethereal, silver-blue twilight. The most dramatic effect would be the shadow. A band several hundred kilometers wide, sweeping along the equator, plunging noon into a deep, cool twilight. For equatorial regions, the daily passage of the ring shadow would define life. Every day around noon, the sky would darken with a crisp, clear dimming of the sun. For a few hours, the world would be cast in cool twilight. Temperatures would drop. The daily eclipse would reshape society. The traditional midday siesta would become a global necessity in the shadow belt. Plants would adapt to reduce sunlight, evolving new photosynthetic strategies, storing energy more efficiently, reorienting leaves to catch morning and afternoon sun. Diurnal creatures might rest during the shadow. Nocturnal or crepuscular animals might treat it as a second night for foraging. Architecture would prioritize east-west light. Cities could develop a dual-phase economy. Morning bustle, a quiet, cool intermission, then an afternoon surge. Art, music, and religion would entwine with the shadow's rhythm. Festivals for the sun's return and myths of a great sky serpent devouring the midday sun. However, the beauty of the rings would come with a hidden, direct danger. A gentle rain of material filtering down, most of it microscopic dust, creating year-round meteor showers. But occasionally, larger fragments, pebbles, rocks, even house-sized chunks of ice, would deorbit and plummet. A beautiful sky, but a treacherous one. Twice a year during spring and autumn equinox, Earth's tilt lines the rings up with the sun. From the ground, the sun would trace that thin ring line. For weeks, the ring shadow becomes a wide, dark band, bringing prolonged cooling at the equator, creating a new seasonal type: warm, cool, bright shadow. Blocking tropical sunlight reduces atmospheric energy input, potentially cooling the planet, shrinking equator to pole temperature differences. Major wind patterns might weaken, hurricane paths alter, monsoon intensity change, with unpredictable global effects. Constant fine ice dust would seed vast noctilucent clouds, glowing long after sunset and reflecting sunlight, amplifying cooling via increased albedo. The world could become cooler, cloudier, rainier. Over thousands of years, ring tilt and wobble would drift the shadow across Earth, moving regions into and out of shade, driving slow climate shifts and migrations. Human culture is deeply intertwined with the sky, from sun gods and moon goddesses to zodiacs. A colossal ring system would become our central muse, and a monster, symbolizing divine beauty and cosmic fragility. Art would be revolutionized, landscape composition reshaped by the Great Arch, photography exploring the interplay of sharp sunlight and diffuse ring shadows. Music would chase the ring's silent grandeur. Our vocabulary would expand. Ring rise, colors and qualities of ring light becoming everyday phrases. The rings would become a universal symbol, a cage to some, a crown to others, a silent witness to births, deaths, celebrations, and conflicts. A dense ring system would challenge our technological civilization, turning low Earth orbit from vast emptiness into a treacherous minefield. Launches would require clear paths or shepherd satellites to carve temporary channels. High stakes, energy intensive. GPS, communications, weather, all reliant on orbital fleets, would face constant micrometeoroid peril. Even pebble-sized ice at orbital speed hits like a bomb. Satellites would need heavy armor or unconventional higher orbits. Orbital real estate would become scarce and contested, raising geopolitical tensions. Ground-based astronomy would suffer perpetual light pollution, the deep cosmos washed out except for the brightest objects. To keep exploring, telescopes would move to highly elliptical orbits or the moon's far side, forcing advances just to reclaim the view once had from our backyards. Radar, LiDAR, and tracking tech would leap forward. And the rings, rich in water ice, could supply water, oxygen, and hydrogen fuel, a barrier and a gateway to the solar system. Gravitational perturbations could ripple the rings, clumping particles into larger aggregates that may later shatter. A ringfall could unleash meteor storms lasting days or weeks, awe-inspiring, yet depositing dust and chemicals aloft, dimming sunlight like a volcanic eruption. The greatest fear: a mountain-sized fragment surviving descent, striking with the force of many nuclear weapons, potentially triggering mass extinction. Humanity would build planetary defense at scale, global tracking networks, powerful lasers, interceptor missiles, a constant, costly vigil against the sky. We would live under a sword of Damocles, yet perhaps find greater unity, bound by beauty and by the shared struggle to survive beneath it. Our sky would be a source of wonder, light, resources, and mortal peril. Perhaps one of the most poignant consequences of having rings would be the loss of something we have always taken for granted: the starry night sky. The perpetual glow of ring shine would act as a veil, obscuring the faint, distant light of the cosmos. On a typical night in London or Tokyo, you might see a handful of bright stars and planets. But the Milky Way would be completely invisible. The breathtaking tapestry of constellations, the cosmic dust lanes, the nebulae, erased from our view. This would be a profound cultural and philosophical loss. We've looked to the stars to navigate, to tell time, to ponder our place. Would the Copernican revolution have happened as quickly if the planet's dance against fixed stars was obscured? Perhaps our focus would have turned inward, or upward only as far as the rings, our new frontier. Our curiosity would find a new focus, but something precious would be sacrificed. Living on a ringed Earth would be a constant exercise in trade-offs. We would gain a sky of unparalleled beauty. We would gain a new source of light. We would gain a nearby reservoir of incredible resources. But we would lose the darkness. But we would lose the stars. But we would lose the safety of an open sky. But we would lose the climate stability we have always known. Our world would be more spectacular. It would also be more dangerous and more insular. This thought experiment forces us to look at our own ringless world with fresh eyes, appreciate the deep, dark velvet of a moonless night, the faint band of the Milky Way, the simple, uninterrupted blue of a clear day. The rings would be a mirror reflecting the sun's light and our own nature, our wonder and art, our ingenuity, our anxieties, our rivalries, and our struggle with a powerful nature. The story of a ringed Earth would be the story of humanity, amplified on a planetary scale, finding our place in a universe far more dynamic and surprising than we imagine. So, the next time you stand outside on a clear night, take a moment. Look up at the vast, dark emptiness dotted with distant points of light. Appreciate the view. Appreciate the silence of a sky that does not rain down rock and ice. Our empty sky is not a lack. It is a gift. It is an open window to the universe. And this brings us to the power of what if. These questions are not idle daydreams. They are tools for understanding. They allow us to deconstruct our reality and see the intricate connections that hold it together. By imagining a world that is different, we learn to appreciate our own more deeply. So, what is your what if? What single change to our world would have the most profound consequences? What if the moon had a twin? What if plants were sentient? So, what do you think would really happen? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. You've been watching IfVerse. If you enjoyed this what if, like, subscribe, and join us next week as we dive into another reality.